welcome to the very first episode of Real Leverage. I'm Tyler Gedlaman, here with my co-host Colton Welgan. We're here to showcase our journeys within the capital markets, growing businesses, and our personal brands. We're here to have honest conversations with each other, bring on some guests along the way, and just showcase our true experience navigating the world of business. Colton, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Colton Welgan. I've been in the capital markets for 6 months, but my path to get there is quite unorthodox, as is Tyler's.
Yeah.
So I started in construction about 3 years ago, framing residential homes, and then eventually moving into commercial properties with Tyler. That's how we originally met.
Yeah.
During that time, I was really motivated. I loved the money, but I was never satisfied. I would work 12-hour days. Tyler and I would both, rain or shine, and snow sometimes.
Yeah, some cold days, wet
Right.
days.
It was brutal, but I was never really happy at the end of the day. It was just, I was killing my body. I was always cold, sore, could never work out or do anything fun on the weekend. And the passion kind of fizzled out quite fast. Mm-hmm. But from that point, I was always interested in the capital markets and realized that is the career I wanted to switch. After 3 years, finally realized that. And I was kind of deciding where to go. That's when I heard about wealth management through my mom, started looking at the CSE, the Canadian Securities course, taking the course, passed my level 1, started talking to some wealth managers around Nanaimo, because that's all I knew. That's what I thought if I went into capital markets, it was a wealth manager or nothing, because I had, again, no university experience. Quickly realized that didn't really sound like a dynamic industry and was very boring, and felt lost again. I started talking to my girlfriend at Fort Burger Lounge one night, and just so happened to meet a man named Sean Westcott, who was also in the capital markets, but on a different side, junior mining. And I was like, okay, this is different. This is something intriguing. So, Lord and behold, 2-hour conversation later, he told me that if I'm interested in this industry, I should go to VRIC, which is called the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference, hosted by Jay Martin. So right there and then, I booked my tickets and my hotel, because God test this out, anything's better than construction.
Yeah, that's right.
So I went with Sean Westcott to VRIC. My plan was to go there and get a job. I did not want to leave VRIC without a job. I didn't want to go back to construction.
No.
Fortunately, that didn't pan out as I wanted, but soon realized it's quite hard walking up to CEOs and IR professionals, trying to talk to them about an industry I had no idea.
Yeah.
So it's quite intimidating. I'm sure you found this
Yeah, for sure.
off the bat, that when you don't know anything about geology or even how a junior mining company is structured, it's just so overwhelming, and you don't want to sound stupid.
Yeah, especially when you want a job that bad.
No.
We both know that feeling all too well of, leaving for the weekend from our construction job and thinking like, man, this weekend I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to quit. And there's a lot of weekends like that, and it didn't pan out, and we're back at it. So.
And it fueled the fire a little more though.
Yeah, for sure.
It really pushed us to go that next step. But anyways, as I was at this investment conference, I would just stare at CEOs and wait for them to say hi to me or something so I could approach the booth.
Yeah.
So scared. So kind of learned a little bit of communication there, but got humbled. Didn't end up finding a job, but I realized through some of the keynote speakers like Rick Rule, Frank Yersta, and David Gafario that the junior mining sector was an area I wanted to start my capital markets career in, since they all talked about how the market sentiment was switching and commodities is going to be going on a bull run. So what better way to position myself than in junior mining?
Definitely.
So going forward, I left the conference kind of confused, didn't know what to do. So I started cold calling CEOs looking on their websites, and then cold messaging CEOs on LinkedIn. Got a shit ton of no's. But through that process, I learned what worked and what didn't work. What didn't work was begging for a job and just giving me a chance with no degree or education. What did work was asking to provide free value in exchange for a contract if I succeeded,
Right.
which eventually got me a job at Gold Hunter Resources, where I've been for the last 6 months. Now I'm just 6 months into the capital markets, like I said, so I'm still learning everything about structuring a junior mining company, geology in general, and how capital intensive this industry is. But that's kind of my journey and where I am right now. Now, Tyler, for you,
Yeah, for
let's
sure.
hear it.
Pretty similar story. As you guys will probably find out, we're pretty similar, the two of us. People even say we look alike, so maybe there's some comments on that. I don't know. But yeah, pretty similar story. I think you said we met in construction. We're working for a company framing apartments. We met about 2 years ago, pretty much 2 years ago now. We hit it off right away. I remember we were working on a roof, listening to Morgan Wallen, and we just like clicked like that. We just like had so much fun. And for a while there, we were like, man, like we can do this ourselves. We started like seeing where some companies like our company or other companies kind of go wrong in construction, whether it's through like management or like organizing the job itself and just how much money gets spent and wasted in the industry. Not to call anybody out who may be listening to this. It's not at anybody in particular. We notice it across all companies. This is not at somebody. But yeah, there's just a lot of waste. And naturally we have this passion for business and all these things, which we'll dive into. But, we went from just framing, but immediately kind of started bouncing off of each other. Like, we could do this and this is what would be better. And we were noticing these things. So we kind of went on that for a while. But during that time, it was like, okay, great, let's talk about construction, how we want to own our own construction company and be the bosses like we both really want to do. But then it would be like, okay, see you later. And then we go home and we just get straight on YouTube and like look up marketing techniques or like watch a podcast on how to do like sales or like learn about finance or watching the stock market. And it was like, that's really where the passion lied for me. And I know for you as well. And we've been doing that for a while. So yeah, it was just a lot of long nights in construction. Eventually it just kind of hit a point for me where I knew I wanted to change careers. Like, quite frankly, my whole time in construction, I knew that wasn't it, but it was kind of like, I had a little bit of success early, I guess, in it. I got a good job and I moved out really quick and I made good money, like most people in construction and even young people, when they get comfortable making good money, they're like, okay, you start to develop a bit of a lifestyle around it and get not comfortable. I don't want to say I was comfortable because I was still grinding nights and weekends, reading books, watching like thousands of hours probably on YouTube and like watching the market almost every day for the last 7 years, but just comfortable with the lifestyle that came around that money. And it was like, okay, how do I get out of construction, keep the money, and just stay fulfilled or become fulfilled in a new industry? So that was kind of hard to navigate. And like Colton, he kind of beat me to the punch. He was one step ahead of me, paving the way. He looked into wealth management. It wasn't for him, and he moved over to mining. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. Quite frankly, I was a little bit not against mining. I just didn't know enough, and I didn't understand how junior mining works. So I didn't know, like, I didn't jump into that. I was like, okay, let me look into wealth management. And I had a similar experience. I interviewed even with the same guy, and it was just not dynamic enough. He was basically telling me, I can only work a certain amount of hours. It's going to take me years before I'm in front of clients giving them advice. He's like, what does a 22-year-old, 23-year-old know? Why would anyone listen to you? And for me, I've always been a dreamer. We both have. And I also feel like I'm able to like learn a lot quick and just outwork anybody, so I know more. So I don't feel like I'm just some 23-year-old who didn't go to university and doesn't know anything. I feel like I'm this person who's studied harder than anybody in university or anywhere for years, and I have like a wealth of knowledge that spans a lot of different areas of like business and finance. And I just needed a career change where the direct result of my hard work, whether that be working 16-hour days and weekends and nights, would speed up my career essentially. And I wanted to be my own boss to some degree as well. I know we all work for companies in some capacity where you work for your shareholders, where you work for your clients, but to some degree have some sort of entrepreneurial spirit. And following Colton's steps next, I started looking into junior mining, and that industry kind of really attracted me in that aspect where you do kind of work for yourself, operate for yourself, but help companies, help people. And although I'm still kind of figuring out my footing professionally, that's kind of the avenue I'm going, and which kind of ties into why we're doing this podcast, along with everything else we're doing. Like, we both have articles, we write every week, we post on LinkedIn, we post on Twitter. We're obviously starting this podcast. We're kind of like a more raw, obviously video format, personal, and longer form as well for people to get to know us better, learn our experiences, learn about us, and then this will help us as well down the line. And we want to help people too, so people can learn from us, they can learn from our guests, and we're going to be learning as well. So we're kind of doing all this branding now, like the podcast and LinkedIn, Twitter, Substack. We're going to do Instagram, TikTok, just basically fully focus on our brand as well as kind of learning more in business. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I don't know if you have anything you want to add on that.
No, I think you've covered all of it. Yeah, we're really just focused on building our brand. Tyler recognized earlier than I, many years earlier, that building a brand is crucial nowadays. People don't trust companies, they trust people. And so wherever we go within our career, we want to have a brand and a roadmap of where we started and where we're going.
Yeah.
So there's that's this level of transparency with investors, shareholders, funds, whatever. Anyone can see where we're going, what we talk about, what we're learning.
For sure. And I think to kind of build on that, the whole, like the podcast is a good example beyond just the traditional, article writing or like, punchy tweets or even, macro theme post on LinkedIn, the podcast, and then what will come after that with the shorter form content, but of us, it'll add a level of transparency to people well beyond, what your education or experience section says on LinkedIn or what your resume you send over an email, which both of us, I know for sure for me, it was like some people you would speak to, they're like, oh, just send the resume over. And I do, or I just say like, get on a call with me. Like I'll do Zoom, I'll meet you for a coffee. I don't care. Like my resume does not even begin to explain who I am, what I know, and what I want to do and how motivated I am. And so doing this just adds another layer of depth, right? Instead of me needing to send a resume that says 5 years experience in construction, it's like watch a 30-minute podcast of me sitting here talking about my dreams, my ambitions, my motivation, look at my character, look at how I'm speaking, and then, do that for a few years. And then, the doors are really going to open up.
I agree. I truly agree.
And another point on that with the personal brand is like, you did say, I did notice a few years ago, there was really an increase of people building personal brands across all spaces, like entertainment or business or whatever, but especially with this kind of really not new wave of AI, but AI is just developing so much. We really feel like there's a need to have a personal brand now. So you're like that go-to guy for whatever you do. Otherwise, people are just going to go to AI. Like, you're going to want to be like that CPA guy where people come to you for accounting work or accounting advice. And if you're not, and you don't have that brand, people are just going to go to ChatGPT, upload a year worth of bank statements and say, print me an Excel sheet, and then throw in like the Canadian tax code, and it does your bookkeeping for the year and your accounting. So, with the development of AI as well as this trend, finally, it's taken a long time. I've noticed it for a while, but yeah, we're kind of finally going ahead with that. I don't know. Do you have anything to add?
Well, I would just add a little bit saying that, again, it's so critical. And again, that's why we're building our brand. And if people are listening and trying to get started in this industry, they should do the same, because it's going to be harder and harder to differentiate what artificial intelligence work is and what human work is. But if you can stamp your name on something and have a podcast that shows what you've done, what you're doing going forward, it's going to be easier for someone to trust you. Personally, when I call my bank and I have to talk to an automated voice system, oh my God, I hate it. It's not helping my problems. And
no, exactly.
Even when it says, I understand you're frustrated. No, it doesn't.
Yeah. And they'll get smarter and whatnot. And maybe they'll get really smart to the point where it actually does work well. And then, like leading into that, it does add more of an importance to personal brands. And as far as our audience go, we don't know who's going to listen to this. Like, we're hoping what we speak about can resonate with a wide variety of audience, because we will be covering a wide range of topics, just from like mining or like macroeconomics, like the capital markets as a whole. We're going to be talking about mindset stuff and personal growth and branding. So there'll be a lot of wide range of topics as well as a wide range of guests. So as far as our target audience go, we're going to try to keep it so anybody can get anything from it. And everything we say, like the personal branding, like it doesn't matter if you're 16 and you're watching this and you don't know what you want to do, or if you're 50 and you're like scared about AI, like we're doing it, we're showing you how this is going to work, and you can look back in 2 years and see where we were sitting here today versus where we are in 2 years, and that it is possible. And we haven't done it yet, but we know it's possible because we see other people doing it. As far as how often you guys should be expecting our podcast to be coming out, we're aiming for at least once a week in the beginning, but the more guests we can bring on, the more we grow and expand. We would love to roll this out multiple times a week for sure. That's a goal. Like we said with the personal brand stuff, We want to put out as much content as possible, document our journey in the most transparent way, and to help with that frequency, it definitely would help. So, Colton, why don't you tell me, who would your dream guest be if you could bring someone on?
My dream guest would be Alex Hormozi because, like you just said, he posts a shit ton of content. He's written 2 amazing books personally that really helped me with my sales ability and even how to present an offer.
Right.
$100 million offer and $100 million sale, I believe, is the title of the book. And he's just a grinder. It's always posting new content. He always has a solid offer. It's just a guy that knows the game and knows how to brand himself. And especially since we're just starting that, he's someone to...
He's a good role model.
Exactly.
I do like something about him, how transparent he is and authentic he is. Like, if you guys don't know who he is, look him up. He's like this guy. He's I don't know how much money he's worth. There's a lot of money. He has a big brand, but he's got like crazy long hair and like a thick beard and wears a tank top in all his videos. And he's like jacked. And it's just like, that's him. He doesn't change that when he's doing speaking engagements in front of 5,000 people in an auditorium. He's still wearing that and he still talks the same. Like, it's just cool to see. He's like just so authentic, I guess, which is what we're trying to do here.
I agree.
For sure.
If we can be 75% like Alex Hormozi and Ryan Serrant, we would be a killer combination.
Yeah, that would be my dream guest. Would be Ryan Serrant. He's been he's a real estate guy and a media guy. He's got a Netflix show, 3 books. He had a TV show over like 10, 12 years ago, and he's like crazy on all socials now. And he's been a big inspiration for me. So that'd be my dream guest. I would love to talk to him about his mindset and how he just keeps leveling up and he stays focused and hungry after all these years. Like, I read his book. I don't know when it came out. I read it 8 years ago when I was in grade 10, or 8 or 9 years ago. So, yeah, I've been following him for a really long time. He'd definitely be a dream guest of mine.
To expand on that, what would be a question if you had him right in front of us on the show that you'd ask him?
How do you always know what the next thing is? Like, his whole career, he started out, he wanted to be a model. He moved to New York City from like some small Midwest town in the States, and he like started analyzing the other brokers at his office who were better than him. He basically figured out what they were doing and then like expanded on it and then started to find some success. And he's a good example of, I guess, not faking it till you make it. Like, people say that and it sounds inauthentic, but it's true. You act like the person you want to be and you become that person. And I know we both believe that. I think about that every single day. Like, getting in front of this camera and like talking online, like, that's scary, that's uncomfortable. But the person I want to be and you want to be are people that do that. Or like, what did we do yesterday? We went and we did a photo shoot downtown, and 100 people walked by and stared at us. People were talking to us and we were just there like posing, wearing our suits. And it's just like, that's the type of people we want to be. So we just do it, get uncomfortable and do it until it is comfortable. And anyways, Ryan's a good example of that. Back in the day, he when he was kind of coming up, he was faking it until he made it, acting like this realtor that he wasn't. And then now look at him. He's probably the most well-known realtor on the planet. And one day he's going to have the biggest company on the planet, if he doesn't already. I'm sure he's getting up there in the States. I wanted to ask you, though, why don't you share a little story about how you got interested in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so I got interested in entrepreneurship at the age of 10 or 11 in grade 5. We had a 2-week program, so it was a hiatus. We had to stop math, science, all the other subjects for this young entrepreneurship program, which for me, I was like, sweet. I didn't want to do anything else.
Yeah, vacation.
Mini vacation. Yeah. But we essentially had to create a project, a board, or as I called it, a marketing criteria, and then sell our product to the school on the very last day of the curriculum at recess. So recess is, I think, 45 minutes back then. Anyways, so they taught us the basics of business, revenue, profit, and labor costs, which for an 11 to 10-year-old boy was crazy to think.
It's a little overwhelming.
Yeah. It is, right? But that you can make money on something of this nature. So anyways, I created Harley hat-trick sticks, made 30 hockey sticks, made a brand logo. Harley was my dog, so I thought that would be a good name. I just got him too. I was very excited about that. And then I sold this product during recess. I would say it's quite successful. I sold the product for $15. It cost me $5 to make, $10 profit for a 10-year-old is crazy. I felt like I was on Mount Everest, cloud 9. It was absolutely
Yeah.
mind-boggling. And I sold out in 30 minutes. My mom didn't even get time to come up and see my stand because everyone loved the product. And that was kind of the first taste of, if you build a product someone likes and you sell it because people like people, people buy from people they like, then you have a winning product. And that was just what got me hooked.
You got that taste early on.
Exactly. From that point on,
Yeah.
whatever I was going to do in life, I knew I had to be the business owner. That comes back to when we were in construction. It wasn't just going to be a foreman. We wanted to own the construction company.
Yeah, exactly.
And we don't know where we're going in the capital markets, but it's going to end with us being the owners and operators of a business.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, for you in your entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
where did that start?
Similar story. It started out, I think I was in grade 2 or 3, I don't know, maybe I was 8 or 9 years old. Me and my friend, who I'm still great friends with today, we started writing books together. I was the writer, he was the illustrator. I mean, that's where my passion for writing really started, at that young age. But what followed from that was we started bringing our books to school, and our friends were kind of reading it, or like, oh, what are you doing? How kids talk. And we're like, okay, people are kind of interested in this. So what we did is we tried to monetize the book. So we made bookmarks, which is so funny. We got a piece of blank paper, drew lines on it, wrote the book title on it, and then taped it to laminate it because we didn't know what a laminator was back then. We brought it to school and sold it to our friends for like $1, I don't know, a quarter, whatever it was, and probably $1. And they all bought it, and we like sold out of our like 10 bookmarks that we taped for lamination. And we're like, okay, that was fun. Like, people bought the bookmarks because they liked our book. So we took the profit, we went back to his house, and we kind of started brainstorming, like, okay, what can we do next? So we went to the store, we got a bunch of like pops, like in glass bottles, and drank them. Probably way too much pop for a kid back then. And then we cleaned them out, and then we built our own drink concoction. And I'm sure it was just horrible, but kids love sugar, and there was a lot of sugar in it. So we took that, we went back to school with the new product, we leveled up from the bookmarks to a drink based on the book, and everyone bought them at recess, drank them, gave us, a few bucks or whatever. So, we reinvested the original profit, we rolled out a new product, made more money, went back to his house. We even had a bank in his house at the bottom of his clothes drawer. We had, at the very bottom, I can still see it, I remember it, and we had like a few 5s and 10s and some quarters and 20s and stuff in there. And that was like our little bank. And then, we had all that profit, and then we did the same thing again. We made cookies this time. They mass produced them, sold out in recess, made a bunch more money. And, that was kind of it. At that point, I'm pretty sure we just spent all that money on like a bunch of candy. and that kind of ended after that. But that was kind of my first taste of entrepreneurship at a really, really young age. And that fueled my interest in being an entrepreneur into my later life. Later, midway through high school, I started learning more about entrepreneurship and stuff. I started watching some lifestyle guys on YouTube, and I found it was very interesting how they had this educational thing teaching young men about, like fitness and taking care of your hair and your skin and all that. And then how they monetized their brand off of that by selling skincare products or hair care products or clothes for the gym or whatever. And that kind of reignited my spark. And then from that point on, which was maybe grade 10 or 11, it was a pretty steady but gradually increasing time just learning about entrepreneurship and like business and finance and just the whole world. It's a very broad spec, but yeah, that's kind of how I started. I don't know, do you have anything to add?
I was going to say, it sounds like you had a great understanding of capitalism back then with running the bank and the drawer and all that.
Yeah,
that is
sure.
a great exposure for someone in grade 2.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, thinking about it, it is kind of crazy that that's what we're doing. I mean, maybe it was grade 3 or 4. I don't know. I was young, but yeah, it's kind of funny. Didn't take any debt back then. No loans from mom. We just, it doesn't cost anything to get some paper and tape. So
Back then, we didn't know what debt was and that you could leverage debt for your business.
yeah,
so
exactly.
Imagine the returns on the bookmarks back then and the hockey sticks if we actually took out loans.
Yeah, exactly. Scaled it up to the other schools.
Now, I got to ask you, we've been friends for a while, but what was your favorite book you read that kind of helped you ignite that entrepreneurial experience, or say capital markets, that first exposure?
Yeah. Maybe early on the book, which was by Ryan Serhant, who I mentioned earlier, his book Sell It Like Sirhant. Yeah, the book basically goes over like the first like 5 years of his career from basically being nobody, some like stories from when he was back home with his parents in the Midwest, and then him coming into the city and like leveling up and spotting trends and like pursuing greatness and just pursuing success and just by working really hard. Like his big thing is like follow up, follow back, follow through. And that kind of resonates. I mean, I still remember that. I read that 8 years ago. And that book was probably the first one early on. You know, it was kind of like a sales book, but it was really about his mindset and how he just pursued and kept pushing forward. So that was pretty motivational for me back then. I still remember lots of stories from that book. Obviously, I've read his other two books now, and I watch them on YouTube, Netflix, pretty up to date. But yeah, how about you? Do you have any book that really stuck out for you?
The first one that kind of got me interested in investing in the capital markets would be The Wealthy Barber. I'm blanking on the author. I haven't read it.
I haven't read it either.
I read it once in grade 7, and I knew I wanted to be an investor in some kind of capacity. But what probably flipped the switch for me and got me back into the entrepreneurial spirit during my construction days was Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was the first book I read after graduating high school.
Right.
And it kind of just went over how to leverage it. I mean, if you haven't read it, I think it's a great starter book for anyone who wants to get into real estate, entrepreneurship, or even run a business.
It's funny you say that. I mean, I think I've read almost 50 books now. I have a running tally in my notes app, and that's one book I've never read.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I read a lot of business books, psych books, and sales books, and whatever, but I haven't read that book.
Guess I gotta loan it to you then.
Yeah, you might have to. Yeah, for sure. Well, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to add, or should we close it out?
I think we're good to close it out.
Yeah, this first episode is really just to kind of introduce us if you haven't heard from us or you want to hear a little bit more about us. And obviously, it's a new form of content that we're doing. So, yeah, just stay on the lookout for next week's episode. Like I said, we'll probably be coming out at least once a week. And, we're really hoping to scale that up as we get more to talk about and more guests and stuff. Obviously, check out our socials. All that will be in the description of this. Share this with your friends. Feel free to reach out. Like, Colton Welgan on LinkedIn or me, Tyler Gedlaman on LinkedIn, or you'll see our Twitters in the video. Yeah, just feel free to reach out if you have any questions or want to have a conversation. Yeah.
Yep, we're always open for a conversation. I mean, we're still so new in our journey, but we can resonate with people who are still trying to break into the industry. And even though we're not at the top of our game yet, I'm sure we can help in some capacity, as we've already built networks of over 1,000 people each, and those are still growing every day.
Yeah, for sure. It's always scaling up. So yeah, all right. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.